Our next presenter is Kat Adams, and she is the Director of Sports and Recreation in the Youth Development Department at Boys and Girls Clubs of America. She got pulled into the movement 4.5 years ago and as a graduate student intern and hasn't been able to leave since. In addition to her work on programs like National Fitness Competition, Triple Play, and All Stars, she is known around the office for designing logic models, wordsmithing learning objectives, and turning everything into color-coded cross-reference spreadsheets. Ooh, that's a lot, Kat. Kat has a master's in public health from Emory University and a bachelor's in education in kinesiology from the University of Virginia. And she made it a point to note that they are the reigning men's basketball NCAA champs. Her passions outside of the office include local coffee shops, all things gymnastics, jigsaw puzzles, cozy sweaters, and nature documentaries. She currently lives in Atlanta, Georgia with her fiance, Matt, and they're exceedingly well-dressed cat. So now our cat, People Cat, please take it away.
Hey, Valerie. Thank you all so much for inviting me to be here. I'm super excited, and I'm very excited that I had an excuse to put on real clothes and put on makeup for the first time in dear God knows how long. So let me just set up. I need to remember how to share my screen in Zoom. And I know how to do this.
There should be a bar that goes across on the bottom that has a green button that says
screen. Oh, it says that host disabled screen sharing.
Oh no, okay, hold on. We can fix that.
You're the co-host now? Okay, yes. Let's try this again.
Okay.
Oh, this looks promising. Okay, there we go.
Awesome.
It looks like I am sharing my screen now. So can everyone see lots of pictures of my cat now? Okay, one second. Let me get one more bit set up, and then I will be good to go. Sorry, y'all. You'd think that after 9 weeks, I would be better and smoother with online presentations, but it is it's a work in progress. So as Valerie said, thank you, and thank you all so much for inviting me to talk about physical activity and triple play and daily challenges. This is my cat. I did not want Valerie to have to read out his name because he only goes by Floofus McDoofus, because cats sometimes decide what their own name is, and that's the stupid nickname he decided is his name. And then that's my fiance, Matt. It's been super fun planning a wedding in the middle of a pandemic. Ask me about it sometimes. 0 out of 10, do not recommend. And there are cat pictures just scattered throughout this presentation because I have no chill. So I was asked to talk to you all about triple play daily challenges, and specifically how that looks with social distancing, and how do we ensure that as kids are starting to come back into the club, how can we make sure that they are still being physically active, they're still getting all of their needs met. We know that kids really need that peer-to-peer interaction. They need interaction with, the adults and the staff members in their life. So how can we implement triple play daily challenges with an appropriate amount of safety and social distancing? My email address is down at the bottom below. It's first initial, last name, and then it'll be at the end if you have any questions or you want to follow up or connect about anything. And then last little bit of housekeeping. So there are going to be several times where I'm asking you to participate via chat. I will do my best to sort of read things out, but I won't be able to read everything. But please stay engaged in that chat box. That's really going to be where the interaction happens, and that's where the magic happens. The more engaged y'all are, the more fun it is for me as a presenter, because I'm not just like talking to the black box. And then the second sort of disclaimer I want to be really clear about is I am certainly not an expert in implementing daily challenges with social distancing. I don't know if anyone is, but you all are the ones who are in the club and working with young people regularly. And so this is not the meat of this, and the sort of the talking about, well, how do you do this, certainly is not going to be me giving guidance and advice. It is very much going to be, here are some parameters, here are the best recommendations we have, and then really leaning on you all as youth development professionals and as experts in that field. How can we make this happen? So I think there's about 100 of you on this webinar right now. So if all goes well, there's 90 total activities and daily challenges. In a perfect world, we could have a socially distanced modification for every single one of those. So I'm really going to rely on you all to bring your expertise and share that expertise with your peers. And hopefully everyone will come away with this with at least a couple ideas of how to implement physical activity programming in this brave new world we live in. So here's just our quick little agenda. So we did some introductions. We're going to do a quick community builder, and then we are going to follow the flow of a lot of our in-person training. So we're going to have some content, another smaller activity, and then implementation is really going to be the meat. And then we will practice what we preach and do some reflection and closing before our next bit. So the purpose of this session is to help you figure out how are we going to implement the Daily Challenges targeted program with those social distancing guidelines. And then this is a modified version of our standard triple play training that you can find on SLU. And then a little bit of housekeeping before we get into the nitty gritty. So just a reminder that even though things are not necessarily normal, one thing that always remains our #1 priority is safety. And safety, whether you are, this is equally as important whether you are in a club with a large group, if you're in a club with a small group, if you are facilitating an activity virtually like we're doing right now. So that is always needs to be our #1 priority. And then just a reminder that even via virtual programming, you all remain mandated reporters. And so if there's any suspicion, if you are hearing anything in the background of some sort of virtual activity that you're doing with youth, you see something that is concerning, that might point to abuse or neglect or mistreatment, that still make sure you are following your organization's procedures on how to report that. And then, yes, this is my last little safety housekeeping slide. These are just a couple of the resources we have available. The Presidium, that's this first one up here, is if you're not sure what to do, you can contact Presidium and they can give you some technical assistance, some next steps. Crisis text line is for anyone who, whether you are sort of with or near someone that's going through in crisis, or you feel like you are in crisis and don't know what to do. That's a great resource. And then Ethics Point is for things that don't fall under the previous two. It's just like, well, it doesn't need to be reported to the police, but that sounds not good. That's a place where you can, Ethics Point is where you can report those like unethical, potentially legally activities. So, hopefully no one has to use these. but they are here and available for you. Okay, so I hope that all of you know what a community builder is. So we are going to, this is going to be an opportunity for us to hopefully learn a little bit more about one another, and for me to learn a little bit about you, since I think you all have been together pretty much all day and I just hopped in. So because we have everyone's name, we're not going to add a little name into it, but I do want to know, what is everyone's, what's your go-to socially distanced dance party song? So I'm sure that everyone has been turning up their music and dancing around in their room, trying to deal with the stress. So I want to know what's your go-to dance song right now? And pop it in the chat. If you want to add a link, that's fun too. Mine is No New Friends by LSD. And I keep saying that when I do these presentations and I ask this question that I'm gonna get a playlist together. Hasn't happened yet, but maybe one of these days I will get on it and make the ultimate dance party, socially distanced dance party playlist. So coming soon to a Spotify near you. Stadium Rave by SpongeBob SquarePants is the best response I have ever gotten to this question. So Manuel, I love it. So I am going to give y'all a couple more, just a little bit more time to add your private dance party song into the chat. Take a scroll through and see what your colleagues are putting in. Oh my gosh, Metro Station, Shake It. I remember that. That's a throwback. No Scrubs, TLC, also excellent throwback. Footloose. Pre-K songs. I accept Macarena. That is always a fantastic private dance party song. Also, speaking of line dances, I went to a wedding once and I was the only one that knew the electric slide, which is terrifying. Oh my gosh, y'all, I love these. We got Happy, Mr. Brightside. That's another one of my favorites. Okay, thank you all so much. Keep popping those in. Bringing me joy. So one thing I want to call attention to about community builders is that we have included community builders in every single daily challenges session. And I need to see, no, oh, haha. One sec, guys. I want to see if I can see myself, so that way I can make sure that this works. Show grid video. There we go. Okay. So this is daily challenges and my very special printed copy. And as you can see, there's a community builder right here in every single session. So we have provided community builders in this document for you, but it is not essential that you use the community builder as written in here. The point of the community builder is to create a safe space for youth, so they can have something before they get into the meat of the game. Especially given social distancing, these will probably need to be modified, and that's okay. You will not offend me if you use a different community builder. The important part is that you're doing a community builder. I will add that for the two older age groups in daily challenges, the community builders do act as a little bit of a warm-up or sometimes a review from a previous review of a previous session to practice some of those skills. Again, if you're able to do that, great. The more important part is you're providing that opportunity for youth to connect and get to know each other. And then another little bit, want to always call your attention to the YD Toolbox app. So it is available on your on the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. And I want to call attention to the fact that it now has a section, the most recent update has a section for social distancing activities. So that will be a helpful resource for you as you think about and plan how to implement daily challenges and look at these community builders that involve close contact or hand holding or something like that. So that's definitely a resource. If you don't have space for it on your phone, it's worth deleting some stuff to make sure you have space for that app on your phone. And then a couple other things, Valerie already went over this, but please make sure you are paying attention actively and you're actively participating, not like Sir Floofus over here. You all are already doing a great job of being kind and responding and speaking up in the chat box. I appreciate that, and let's keep that going. Okay, so getting a little bit more now into the meat of our content. The overall purpose of this is to make sure that any and all youth are meeting these 3 priority outcomes, and daily challenges specifically is focusing on the healthy lifestyles priority outcomes. So this is going to focus on social, emotional, physical, all of the components of what it means to be healthy. And then I think we went over this already, but by the end of this session, you should have a plan to implement daily challenges with alterations for social distancing. And then these are just the learning objectives that we are going to hit along the way. We're going to talk about daily challenges as a targeted program, and we are also going to talk about specific staff practices that specifically apply to daily challenges. Also, staff practices that specifically apply to social distancing and thinking about how we can merge those 2 together. And then again, that implementation plan. Okay, so the next step is we're going to do an opening activity. Again, this is going to be in the chat box. Oh, and everyone, please let me know, throw me a chat in the chat box if I am talking too fast, I'm talking too slow, if you need me to repeat something. I have my eye on that right now, so feel free to use it like you would interact with any other instructor in any in-person thing. I've had a lot of coffee today, so I feel like I'm talking very, very fast. Okay, so the first part, or the first thing I want to ask, and a note on these pictures, my cat, he doesn't like boxes. So I have no pictures of him in a box. So no cat box pictures for the chat box, but instead you can see him sitting in other things. So in the chat box, I want you to put in what are things that encourage or motivate you personally, not you as in the greater human race, but you personally as an individual. What are things that encourage you to be physically active? So think personal, and then please submit 1 thought at a time. So don't type like a whole paragraph. If you have multiple thoughts, pop them in as separate chats. So Tamara said healthy. I'm going to push you and ask you to be a little bit more specific than healthy. Nice weather, nieces, a scale, energy benefits, music encourages you, mood booster, video game characters. I'm interested in that, Diane. I would love to hear more about that. I'm seeing kids, children, keeping up with my kids. Desiree said, when other people around me are being physically active. Desiree, you read my mind. Keep that top of mind. My power walks are meditation. Same, Tammy. When I need to kind of regroup, I'm definitely going on a walk. yoga doctor, when I can't contour a six pack, oh my gosh, it's real. It's real, y'all. Nice weather. Okay. Thank you all so much. Got some good responses. Keep popping them in. But I'm definitely seeing some common themes. I'm seeing, you know, your appearance, weight. I'm seeing activities. So the actual activity, whether it's basketball or we're doing yoga, we're playing sports, or for me, it's taking dance class and seeing my friends at dance class. Your dog, kids, so the people and animals around you. And then I'm also seeing some comments around the environment and being able to be outside, and then how it makes you feel, whether it gives you more energy, it boosts your mood. So lots of different specifics, but definitely seeing some common themes. Definitely encourage you to take a little, take a scroll through those. Okay, so we're gonna switch gears. And now I want you, same guidelines, be personal and submit one thought at a time. What are things that discourage you or demotivate you? Things that make you not want to be physically active. So, I mean, an easy one right now is quarantine. I can't go to dance class right now, so that's been frustrating. Oh my gosh, y'all, these are coming in so quick. Let's see where these, so I'm seeing some weather, I'm seeing Netflix, I'm seeing pain, seeing a dirty house, always busy. I'm seeing a lot of tired, stress, sleeping, being by yourself, read, I definitely feel that. Holidays. Brittany says other people having six packs. So the, Brittany, I'm going to interpret that as it's frustrating perhaps, seeing other people farther along on that goal. Netflix, not seeing results quick enough. Laundry, y'all, folding laundry is a workout for me. Not reaching or seeing any results. Junk food, yes. I've been eating so much more junk food recently, when there's a lot of food. Okay, so thank you all for that. Society creating a norm that in order to be perfect, you need to be skinny. Yes, that is real, Sarah. Sweet cakes. So I want, I'm noticing again a couple themes here. I'm seeing stress. I'm seeing the time it takes to sort of see results, feeling the goal is so far away. Nancy, that's an excellent summary of that theme that I'm feeling. I'm seeing a lot of things about food. And then also weather, sleep, stress. I had one thought, just like other things going on. I think we can categorize Netflix, chores, laundry as other things going on. So thank you all so much for that. Again, if you are thinking about things, as you think about things, pop them in. So now I want to think a little bit more broadly. So thinking about the things that you and your colleagues just wrote down, and I encourage you to go and scroll through. Why is it important to be physically active? Again, so this one is a little bit different, but just in general, why is it important to be physically active? Health, energy, health. To be healthy. Okay, so I'm getting a couple things coming in already. So I think that we have some commonalities there, right? It's important to be physically active to be healthy. And you can be physically active and be contributing to that health, sort of regardless of how much. So it's one of those things where some physical activity is better than none. Anything is better than what you might be doing now. And so now I want to ask, how would it make you feel if you were more physically active? So, yep, and we're on question 2. Marcy said it would make you feel better, more energy, more alert. Okay, so I'm seeing that, I'm seeing again some common themes: more confident, more energy, more motivated. Okay, so again, I'm seeing, you know, you all are recognizing, hey, physical activity is important for health, even though there's lots of reasons why I do or do not want to be physically active, or reasons why I am or am not physically active. It's important because it's important for our health, and it's going to have some benefits. So now it seems like we're landing on the fact that physical activity is generally good. That seems to be the conclusion we're coming to, if I may be so bold. So now I want to go to question number 3. How can we, or you as a person, as an individual, how can we support others in being physically active? Encourage them. Carl, say more about that. What specifically could you do to encourage other people to be more physically active? So Gabrielle says challenges. I see a workout buddy or a chat, being accountable. Offer to go on a walk with them. Yes, my fiance is big on that. And when I start to get grumpy, he's like, let's go on a walk. And I roll my eyes and get annoyed, and then I inevitably feel better. Positive reinforcement. Offer a no judgment space. Challenge each other. So Jade says, I saw Jade say eating healthy. So this, I so wish that I was in an actual room with you all so we could have an in-person conversation thing. I want to separate that out a little bit because nutrition, and we'll dig into this a little bit more later, but nutrition and physical activity are both important for good health. They make us feel better in all sorts of ways that many of you have mentioned. But right now we are really focusing on the physical activity. There's the two sides of the same coin. We're really focusing on the physical activity side of that coin. Because you can eat super, super well and not be physically active at all. And you can be super physically active and have really poor eating habits. See me in college. So I don't want to unnecessarily conflate the two. They are totally, totally, totally interrelated. There's a lot of connections. But for the next 90-ish minutes, we're going to be talking specifically about physical activity and the effect and how to get your body physically moving and how to encourage others to get their body moving. But nutrition definitely plays a role in health. That's just another training. That's the healthy habits training. I see someone say join them in their journey, praise, setting goals, and motivating others. Switching to mall walking, yes. Also, can I get an invite to the staff cookout, please? Because that sounds like a lot of fun. Okay, thank you all so much. Yeah, reminding them to do the workout, definitely. So thank you all so much for that. And I want you to, as we move forward in this presentation, I just want you to think about all of the, you just answered 5 different types of questions about physical activity and what, why we should be physically active and how we can be physically active. I want you to, do a little scroll through, see what your colleagues are saying, what you might have missed, and keep those in the back of your mind because these are concepts that we're going to be revisiting again and again. This is our formula for impact. So again, we're moving forward. charging ahead. And we are going to be specifically talking about targeted programs moving forward. I hope you all are familiar with the formula for impact. If you are not, you can learn more about it in the Program Basics Blueprint. That's the top source I would recommend that you look at. And all this is saying is that targeted programs are one thing that contribute to a young person achieving these priority outcomes. Again, we're focusing on this healthy lifestyles outcome today. So Daily Challenges is one specific targeted program that really leads to that healthy lifestyles priority outcome. So targeted programs, that component of the high quality club experience, they're important for a number of reasons. They are, so again, they're one of those components of the outcome-driven club experience, and they are sequenced learning experiences. And so a targeted program is our way of ensuring that a young person is building the skills and the knowledge that they need throughout all of the 5 core program areas. And they are very specifically chosen so that way we can drive skills and knowledge in those 5 core program areas so that our youth can achieve those priority outcomes. Before I go any further, because I've gotten questions about this and every time I've done this training, so I want to pause because I'm talking about a couple different things. I'm talking about triple play and I'm talking about daily challenges. So triple play is a suite of 3 programs. We have three books that kind of look like this. And they are written so they work together to build the skills, attitudes, and knowledge and behavior that's going to contribute to that overall healthy lifestyle, that priority outcome area healthy lifestyle. However, and so all 3 of them are equally important. But working on all components of health all at once is a huge, huge lift. And, you know, all of us constantly, you know, are growing in that. And, you know, we learn better, both adults and youth learn better when we're able to focus in on smaller bits. So we have, since the release of the standardized program materials in 2018, 2019, again, so everything looks like our daily challenges does over here. We've really, at BGCA, we've really increased emphasis on focusing on each of the 3 targeted programs within triple play, because those are what build skills, and having a little bit less emphasis on just generally triple play. Because triple play is not 1 program, it is 3 programs. So it's made up of healthy habits, daily challenges, and social recreation. Daily challenges is again what we're focusing on today. That's, you might have heard it referred to as the body component of triple play. Healthy habits is our nutrition education curriculum or targeted program. And then social recreation is a social emotional learning targeted program, and really focuses on building relationships, between youth. Stacy says that I'm cutting out. So it looks like things are good on my end, but I will double check. Everything I'm saying right now is on the slide. Okay, couple other things. So we've gone over, you know, what a targeted program is, why it's important. We now know that triple play is made up of 3 different targeted programs. I hope you all are familiar with these 5 key elements for positive youth development. these are the 5 things we want to make sure that every youth is experiencing every time they walk through the doors of a Boys and Girls Club or they log on to a virtual activity. Even if they are 6 feet away from everyone, that they are still experiencing a great environment, that they are having fun, they feel like they belong, they have relationships, they know what's expected of them, and they have opportunities to meet those expectations, and that they are recognized for the good work they're doing. This is our bread and butter. This is baked in to every session in Daily Challenges, every session in any targeted program that we put out. And no matter how you modify a session, whether it's for whatever reason you modify a session, whether it's due to social distancing or I was going to say snow, but y'all probably don't have a lot of snow in Texas. Or equipment, or, you know, for whatever reason, however you're modifying, these things are still super, super, I'd say the most important part, because without this, the learning doesn't happen. You need all of these things first to make sure that that learning is going to happen and be effective. So how do we make sure that all of our youth are experiencing those five key elements? We have done that with reading a lot of research papers, which I love, but apparently not everyone loves reading research papers. And what the research says is that if we do these things in a session, then youth are more likely to have experienced those elements of a high quality experience. So these elements of a high quality session are your checklist to make sure, you know, did I give youth everything they need? So a couple points of clarification here. A session is any activity that occurs during like a standard block of time. So for most clubs, it's probably about an hour, and youth might rotate from space to space on the hour. So just like, you know, a class session. So these are the elements of a high quality session. Warm welcome, which we did here in our virtual training together. We've done a community builder. We did our group agreements. We're in the main activity right now. And then later on, we will get to reflection, recognition, and closing. So these are things you want to see in every single session you do. Again, whether it's daily challenges or if it's some other activity. I find honestly memorizing this list to be super, super helpful when I coach, because I'm able to real quickly run through like, oh, have I gotten everything today? And sort of mentally check it off. I know some people have like on their staff lanyard, they have a little card on the back of their lanyard that has these things on it, again, so they can have like a little physical reminder of all of the elements of a high quality session. And then I know some people that just sort of intuitively, this is how they run a session. So lots of different ways to use these, but again, important that you use them, and the more familiarity you have with these, the easier it'll be to use your targeted program materials from Boys and Girls Clubs of America, because this is exactly how everything is written. This is how we write. And so sort of you've seen one activity and you've seen one session, you know the flow of all of the others. I briefly talked previously that targeted programs are how we achieve skill building in each of the 5 core program areas. These are the 5 core program areas. I won't belabor them, but I do just want to make sure that you see what all 5 of them are. Daily Challenges and Triple Play more broadly is in the Sports and Recreation core program area. And the Sports and Recreation core program area is focused on a young person's movement skills, so their ability to move their body and be physically active. And then, and here's where these things start to, where we get both sides of that coin, and their nutrition skills as well. And so our goal through all of the programs and resources in the sports and recreation core program area is to increase a young person's confidence and motivation to use all of their movement and nutrition skills in order to maintain a physically active lifestyle. So it's not enough to do one or the other. We want them to have great, solid skills in both and be motivated to use both of those skills. The programs are written and we build those movement and nutrition skills by focusing on nutrition literacy and physical literacy. And all that means is nutrition literacy or physical literacy. It's just like reading literacy. It's a lot of like gradual steps. It's a lot of process, and there's no finish line. It's an ongoing process. You know, your physical literacy might be at this level now, and then it could be improved down the road. It's not a competition. This is not a competitive thing. It's not a end goal to reach. It's just part of that journey. And that is all there. I'm sorry, y'all. I had a little like brain glitch there. Had a little issue getting through that slide. Okay, a little bit more about targeted programs, and I think that this is going to be some information that's going to be important and really critical as we think about how to modify a targeted program that really relies on a lot of close contact and people being really close together. But how do we modify a targeted program like that to be to work in an era of social distancing? But a couple key characteristics to know about targeted programs. They're planned, so there should be some amount of planning involved, and they're done for a specific reason. They are, again, I think I've mentioned this several times now, they're specifically designed to achieve goals and outcomes and build knowledge and skills. They are for a specific audience, so the activities for a 6-year-old are different than the activities for a 16-year-old because a 6-year-old and a 16-year-old learn differently, and they learn differently from one another, and they also need to learn different things. They are sequenced. Skill building happens when you are able to build and continue to progress. So these sessions, the sessions in a targeted program, are intended to go in a certain order. They have some specific delivery mechanisms, again, because different youth of different ages at different skill levels learn in different ways. And we want to see if they're effective and make sure we're doing things that are benefiting our youth so that all of our targeted programs have evaluation and measurement resources in a way that best fits the content. So these are characteristics of a targeted program. And there are going to be parts about this that are going to be something that needs to be worked around a little bit when we're thinking about implementing them for social distancing, because these activities and daily challenges, they weren't written with social distancing in mind. And so that is going to have to necessitate getting creative with the targeted program. Okay, so daily challenges, again, it's a progressive curriculum. It starts with one session, it ends with another. They go in order. There are 3 age groups, so 6 to 9, 10 to 12, and teens. And there are 32 sessions in every single age group. So there's a total of 96 sessions in this book. The first session for every age group is group agreement building and group agreement setting. And then the second session for all of them is sort of a pre-test, I guess you could say, where it functions like that, where youth can experiment and play around with some of the skills they are going to learn in daily challenges or going to practice in daily challenges. The intent of this is so that youth can see where they're at and identify their strengths and weaknesses and areas of improvement, and also so you can see where all of your youth are at. And, you know, are there youth that are, you know, maybe struggling in a skill that you didn't expect them to, or like you find out that no one in this one age group can throw a ball. So can help you figure out what you might need to spend more time on. Again, a couple things. They are, daily challenges is going to be the most successful when it's facilitated in the order recommended. And also, sessions can be repeated as often as necessary. So again, if you have that group where no one knows how to throw overhand, you can repeat those sessions, and there are modifications provided in every session, all the slew of modifications. So you can play the same game probably every day for a week, and it's going to look completely different all 5 days of the week. And there's also, I just want to call out that there's a really wide range of types of activities in daily challenges. So we wanted to expose youth to all of the ways you can be physically active. It's not just competitive sport, but it's also, you know, more casual games. There's cooperative activities that have no competition whatsoever, but just how are you working together to be physically active? So there's a really broad range to appeal to all youth with all different kinds of motivations and existing skill sets. And again, as I mentioned, there's an evaluation component. These are the skills that members are going to develop in daily challenges. So we talked about physical literacy, and you can see that the definition is the ability, confidence, and motivation to be physically active. And then social emotional skills. So if you recall and think back to our opening activity that we did when we talked about what is motivating or demotivating for you to be physically active, how can we encourage others to be physically active, you can see a lot of that in these social emotional skills. So when we think about you know, having an accountability buddy, those are relationships. That's a personal relationship you have with someone. Goal setting, understanding that, yeah, you can't do one sit up and then have a 6-pack. I wish. You know, one I'm really struggling with is impulse control. And instead of hitting yes, I'm still watching Netflix, and giving into that impulse, I'm going to stand up and take a walk before I watch the next episode of Tiger King. And then we have our movement skills, and we are going to get into these a little bit more later, but this breadth of movement skills is, I just want to call this out because there are lots of different ways to be physically active. A lot of times when we think about the skills you need to be physically active, it's like, can you run a mile in a certain amount of time? Can you throw a ball? Can you kick a ball? That kind of thing. But there's more nuance to that, right? So you need to be able to run and jump and move your body in different directions and have full range of motion through all of your joints. You also, yes, might need to be able to control a ball with your hands or your feet or with a racket. And then you also, you know, if you want to play a game, have an understanding of the different tactics that go into that. So like, what does offense mean? What does an offensive strategy look like? What are different ways I can use an offense to get past this defender? So those are all separate kinds of skills. And Daily Challenges touches on all of these throughout the 32 lesson sessions for each age group. And of course, how those skills are practiced and to what degree they are practiced looks different for each age group. Okay, So again, going back to the chat box, I see a lot of people popping in their names and what club they're from. If you are just joining us, hello. We are delighted to have you here talking about daily challenges. So if you all could go into the chat box once more, and then what is something that you as a staff person or what is something that you as a staff person can do to support a young person being physically active? Maria asked about obtain this recording. I don't know. That is a, that's going to be a Valerie question.
Yes, everything is being recorded, and the plan is to share it with everybody once the conference is concluded.
That's how you will get that recording. So I am seeing, okay, I'm seeing lots of answers to how we can support a young person, make it fun, participate in the activity with them, encouragement, involving friends, make it a competition, rewards. I'm seeing lots of competition. It seems like you all have youth and kids that really love competition. Include materials such as water. Yeah, I feel like water, props, anything that's like a little bit different always makes it fun. I'm seeing a lot of fun. I'm seeing a lot of encouragement. I'm seeing a lot of recognition and rewards, whether that be club bucks or another kind of incentive. Okay, awesome, y'all. Thank you so much for that. So these are, in addition to all of the things you just said about making it fun and encouraging and having competitions as ways to help a young person be physically active. In addition to all of those things that you all just wrote, sometimes it's hard to know, like, how do I do that? Like, how do I encourage a young person? Or how do I make it fun? How do I make it engaging? And these are some more specific actions that can help you achieve that, making it fun or the being encouraging. So these are specific staff practices that are really going to support making sure that we have an environment that is going to be that fun, encouraging environment for all young people. I want to run through these real quickly, and then we can have a little bit of discussion. I want to see how I'm doing on time here. So using small-sided games, making sure that everyone is participating and having quality playing time. Using progressive instruction. This is a little bit of a new concept for me that I'm still learning about and practicing. But progressive instruction means not throwing everything at them all at once, but building up. Checking in during different games to see how you feel about the difficulty level, and then modifying that difficulty level as needed. If something's way too easy or way too hard, it's not fun. So being flexible and willing to adjust the level of difficulty. Very similar to that, giving youth an opportunity to self-assess how they're doing. And this is very similar to what I see Tamara. Tamara, I really hope I am pronouncing your name correctly. I apologize if I am not. About questioning the why, and then and asking them why they are or are not interested in what their desire is. And so this ties in right along with that, like, how are you doing? How are you being physically active? Is there something you can, is there something you can do? Is there something you could improve? Is there something you're really pleased about? And then also, okay, thank you, Tamara. Also very similar to that is using elimination games. So if you have a super, super, super competitive group of kids, elimination games can be awesome. If you have not super competitive kids who are not super interested in being competitive or winning, elimination games can really be discouraging. You know, the kid who will like try to get out in dodgeball so that way they can just sit on the side. That was me. Not encouraging. So this is one where you really have to know your kids. And as a general rule in youth development, I would say to not use elimination games because we want to make sure that all youth are physically active for the duration of their time, for the entirety of their program time. I know that some kids really, really thrive on elimination games. I would still, this is one thing where I would still really urge you to, if you are doing elimination games, make sure that once you're eliminated, you can still be physically active. So that might mean going and joining another game. That might mean being able to jump back into the existing game. I do want to address, someone asked about obtaining these slides. Yes, you will get a copy of these slides. They're also available if you are a tier 2 trainer, because tier 2 trainers can give are eligible to facilitate a very similar training to this. So these are some staff practices specifically for physical health and physical activity. I'm going to pause for a quick second. Does anyone, please let me know in the chat box if you have questions or comments about these specific staff practices to support physical activity. Okay, no comments right now, so we will keep moving forward. I also want to call attention, and I think you all have really shared, sort of already come up with, these are things that help people and help encourage others to be healthy. But these are some super, super specific ways to interact with young people to encourage their physical and also their emotional health. So asking open-ended questions, providing recognition, whether that be through incentives or like club bucks or other sort of recognition, and then sharing your personal challenges as appropriate, and then modeling ways to address that. And many of you got to that idea already by saying, like, kids get motivated to be physically active when I join in with them. Yes, because they're, you know, when you see someone you look up to doing something, you know, you want to do that and be just like them. So you all, I think you already got these 3 things down. You know, it's not all of the games and all of the activities and stuff are important. It's equally as important to build relationships with young people and ask them questions and provide recognition around their choices and their behavior. So now we are going to transition a little bit from the daily challenges, physical activity, targeted program part. And we are going, this next little chunk is going to be around social distancing, which is this is the new stuff. This is the stuff that Valerie asked me to put in just for you. Before I go any further, I want to make sure that I share these resources with you. I'm going to pop these links into the chat because the links are not clickable on my slideshow. So I have popped those links in the chat. I've made them bit.lys to also make them easier to type out. If you are able, it would be, I think, probably a great idea to go and open and download these right now. But they are all there. What else was I going to say about this? Oh, so these are just resources that different organizations have put out with sort of how do you go about doing youth development programming with social distancing or with reduced capacity. So a couple things to call out. This first one, the COVID-19 Planning Guidebook. I don't want to switch my window. The BGCA, the Planning Guidebook for Summer, this first one, is a little bit higher level. It's really focuses on business continuity and more aimed for an organizational level. Thinking about, big picture safety. What are some big picture planning? How do we diversify revenue streams? For youth development on the ground in the club, we have some more specific resources, specifically at programs, so bgca.net programs. We have a document with specific social distancing recommendations and practices. And then we also have a document that we're calling Program Basics for COVID-19. So it's, if you're familiar with the Program Basics Blueprint, it's like a little tiny version of that with a bunch of tweaks based on, what the world is like right now. A couple other more specific, sport-specific stuff or physical activity-related stuff. These BGCA resources are general. They apply throughout the club in any programming space. The other four are more specific to physical activity and youth sports. So the Aspen Institute's Project Play has return to play assessment guides. So you can go to that URL or you can Google it. It should be pretty easy to pop up. And so that will allow you to assess what types of activities are low risk, what types of activities are moderate risk, and what types are high risk for a wide range of sports. The Up to Us Sports Adaptive Coaching Guide has guidelines for how to modify activities to make them social distance friendly. CDC guidelines have a lot of similar things. What precautions do you need to take? What changes might you need to make? How do you gradually return to sport? And then this last link has been shared. I think I've gotten 8 different emails with this link from 8 different people. The Asphalt Green Games for social distancing it's a huge list of different games broken up by age group that keep everyone 6 feet apart from one another. So I would encourage you to look at these. I think all of these are referenced in, I think these 4 bottom ones, I'm pointing as if you can see. These 4 bottom ones, Project Play, Up to Us, CDC, and Asphalt Greens, I think they're all directly linked in Program Basics for COVID-19 as well. So very, very much encourage you to take a look at those. I reviewed all of this stuff pretty extensively in preparing for this today. And even though I helped write some of this, I learned a lot. We at BGCA are really excited about these resources and hope that you all find them helpful. So some general guidelines for social distancing. 3-foot radius around each member, which is, like the swingy arm thing. That's about going to be about a 3-foot radius. Some other suggestions, and these are not, just to be clear, these are, the recommendations on the slide are not just for the gym or daily challenges or physical activity. These are throughout the club space. One of the recommendations we have is to group members by age, or another way of grouping them, perhaps keeping kids that are from the same household together, so that that small group, that family group, stays together all day, in order to minimize the number of people a young person comes in contact with. And then having staff move from room to room or area to area instead of having groups of youth, to minimize the number of people you have in like a hallway passing one another. Again, this is a bigger picture planning thing. You're gonna have to figure out what works best for your club. Want to make sure that we have lots of hygiene supplies throughout the club, so that wherever you are, you can access whatever you need. So that includes, tissues, hand washing, hand sanitizing stations, trash cans, stuff like that. For using those family groups, we really encourage you to build routines with those within those family groups, so that way it's something to look forward to, that you have this tight-knit group that you are spending all day together. We want to use different cues to make sure that people are providing enough space for everyone. We're going to go into that a little bit more. And then again, this is just best practice, and I'm sure you all know this, but making sure you can see everyone, that can be difficult in the best of times. It can be even more difficult when you have everyone super spread out. So always making sure that you have your back to a wall and that no one can come up behind you, and that you're able to see all of the youth that you are supervising in that moment. So when we are talking about modifying activities, and this is geared a little bit more towards daily challenges. You guys can't see it, but every time I like pat my desk, I'm patting my daily challenges book. This is a little bit more specific to daily challenges and other activities that would take place in the gym. So where is it appropriate? If it's an activity that requires a lot of space, or you have a lot of people, it might be better to do it outside, or an activity that maybe you would normally do in a smaller space, you move it to a different space. So just thinking about like, where can I do this? Where can I do this activity? Is there adequate space to make sure everyone is spread out? So we want to have 6 feet between people. So that's your own personal 3-foot bubble. I did the math. And if you are, looking at the square footage of your gym, trying to figure out like, what's the maximum number of kids I can have in my, on my basketball court, it works out to about 25 or 30 square feet per kid. So if you have a basketball court that's 100 feet by 40 feet, and you can multiply the square footage of that out and then divide it by 30-ish, and see what the maximum number of youth are. There is a resource in this one, the BGCA COVID-19 Planning Summer Guidebook. There's a link to a calculator. It's this big Excel spreadsheet, and you can punch in the dimensions of your room, of your different room or area or classroom or gym, and it'll tell you the maximum number of people you can have in that space while maintaining social distancing. So again, that goes like how many members can participate in this activity. So making sure you're having space, and then what supplies are needed. And I know I've already heard from clubs, this is a super tricky one, because wherever possible, we want, in order to prevent the spread of COVID or any other infectious disease, we don't want to be sharing equipment, because people sneeze and they cough and then they rub their hands all over the ball they're using, and then they pass it to someone else, and then they touch their face, and all of a sudden you've got one person's germs all over someone else's. So where possible, we want to minimize sharing of equipment. And then we also want to make sure that there is specific time periods to clean everything down before and after every activity, and then also at the end of the day. So in, well, say during the school year, your rotation schedule might be pretty tight, where it's you end and then you have 5 minutes to go to the next part of the club. We really, really, really suggest building in dedicated time for everyone to sanitize all of the equipment, to wash their hands, to wipe down any sort of surfaces or doorknobs and stuff like that. And that becomes ever more important the more sharing of equipment you have. Okay, so we talked about some general guidelines for social distancing. We talked about questions to ask to figure out, can I do this activity with social distancing guidelines? Okay, I figured those things out. How do I do that? How do I facilitate an activity with all of these things to remember? So the number one thing is going to be to constantly check for understanding, because it's going to be new for kids, and it's going to be an adjustment, and it's going to be easy to forget. I mean, I was at the grocery store the other day and someone was like standing right here. So adults forget, even though I'm wearing my mask and, you know, everything. Adults forget these things. Kids certainly are. So super important to constantly check in with your colleagues, any staff you supervise, and then the kids themselves. Hey, how are we doing this activity? What are things we need to remember? How far apart do we stay from one another? Things like that. To make sure that everyone is staying 6 feet apart from one another, modify the movements. So if you have super limited space and you just don't have the space for people to be up and moving, you can play it sitting down or sitting in like a squat. So that way it's more of a stationary game. You can also do things like just change the movement itself. You can, instead of sitting down, you can stand on one leg. That's still working on a movement skill. It's working on balance. Instead of running, you can walk, or instead of running, you can do all sorts of fun walks. So you can do a runway walk or a slow motion walk or a zombie walk, to make the idea of like, oh, well, we can't play tag. Tag's a bad example, but we can't play this game while running. It's boring. Making it more of a game and making it goofy, like I know a lot of you mentioned, as a way of encouraging young people, you know, making it silly and goofy. This social distancing and trying to reduce contact on equipment is also a great excuse to practice your soccer skills, because then balls can stay on the ground and you're not touching them with your hands that then touch faces. This is a really great time to lean into working with your feet, and then you can just leave hands out of it. You can have youth put their hands behind their back so they're not tempted to reach out and touch people. And so that just makes it easier to reduce contact on different equipment, and reduce touching. And then I hope that this last bullet point down here looks familiar, breaking large games into smaller groups. So if you recall, one of the previous slides had some staff practices about playing small-sided games. And then one of our general recommendations for social distancing, here we go, is grouping members by age. So it's definitely easier to control who's in close contact with others by just having smaller groups. And this is something that, and having smaller group games isn't something that takes away from the gym experience or the daily challenges experience. It's something that can actually be a huge advantage. You can make sure, you know, instead of playing 7v7 soccer, you're playing 3v3 or 2v2, and suddenly kids are getting way more touches on the ball. They're grouped with youth that are at a similar skill level, so they're really able to push themselves and feel confident, and be in that supportive environment. So that is so just thinking about how you can switch from larger games to that are taking up, you know, the entire gym, splitting it up into smaller, more self-contained games. when you are doing that, especially when you are breaking a large space up into smaller spaces, whether those smaller spaces are for a group or a family group or an individual, we want to make sure that there are lots of visual reminders. So where do you stand when they come into the gym or when they are waiting to wash their hands? And having, dots on the floor or poly spots or X's of tape, stuff like that. And is there a door? We don't want one group entering the gym and another group leaving the gym and walking right past one another. That's not social distancing friendly, because then you're right up against one another. So having one door where everyone enters and another door that's the exit door, or staggering when groups enter and exit. Just making sure that we have lots of reminders. Again, adults forget, kids will forget. So we want to make sure that we are repeating all of this information as much as possible. And then another way to remind youth is not just visually, but also having a consistent routine. I saw a couple of people mention this earlier, with just like having a routine makes it easier to be physically active. Having a routine makes it easier to eat healthy. Having a routine makes it easier to remember your social distancing rules. So recommend having a attention getter. My favorite is Marco Polo. So I say Marco, you all say Polo. So having an attention getter to quickly get everyone's attention and get youth to stop and pause and check their distance. Oh, I am too close to Bobby. I need to move over. Okay. And so having an attention getter, if you all have great attention getters that you and your kids love, please pop them in the chat. And then having routines for hand washing. Something weird happened with my bullets, y'all. I'm sorry. But want to make sure that youth and staff are washing their hands consistently, and they're washing their hands for long enough. So you can have like a different timer or a song that family groups use as their timer. I'm sure that you all have seen, like, there's 1,000 memes about different pieces of songs that are 20 seconds. So you can, use those. You can have a song that plays on your phone. You can have like a little timer or something. So just something that makes that like 20 to 30 seconds of hand washing more fun, and not just a boring chore that I'm having to do for the 8th time today. I see a couple attention getters. If you hear my voice clap once, yep. 1, 2, eyes on me. 1, 2, 3, eyes on me, Brittany. Macaroni and cheese, everybody freeze. Someone I coached with her little ones, she taught her little ones when she said, stop, they all froze and went, collaborate and listen. 90s kid enjoys that Vanilla Ice reference. Flat tire is also a great one. There's more. There are more attention getters in the YD Toolbox app. Everyone freeze like Elsa. Ooh, that's a good one. And then the Andy's coming is like everyone freezes, like from Toy Story. It's okay. I'm gonna have to. I haven't heard of the Scooby-Doo one, and I haven't heard of the Elsa one. So I definitely will have to report back to the team with those. Okay. Before I go any farther, I'm just gonna flip back here. I'm going to pause for a quick moment. Does anyone, and I know that y'all are still popping in your favorite attention getters, and I see that, and I very much appreciate it. Want to see if anyone has questions. I know we have covered a ton of content that spans that has touched on a whole slew of things. We have talked about the outcome-driven club experience. We have talked about targeted programs. We have talked about daily challenges and how to encourage and support youth in being physically active. And then we talked about social distancing and a ton of ways to socially distance. So that is a lot of content and a lot of different things. Gonna pause here and see what questions you have. And if you all have no questions, then that's awesome. I feel like there's a way for me to see if we have, oh, Q&A. Haha. I see no questions at the moment. Okay. How will lunchtime run? Kayla, are you referring to lunchtime sort of like in the club, how to run lunch in the club? Okay. I am going to try something. This might not work. So let me, fingers crossed here. Because that is an excellent question, Kayla, because kids got to eat, right? It is a little bit outside the scope of this presentation, but in one of the resources I posted in the chat, there is guidance on how to run mealtime. And I'm scrolling through my documents to see if I can remember where it is, because I remember reading it earlier today. Planning for social distancing.
Hey, Kat, and just to chime in a little, our next presentation is an update for the state of Texas, and they're going to kind of go over the state guidelines on clubs reopening.
Well, there you go. Thank you. Thank you, Valerie. Kayla, I think the information on modifying and some suggestions for running lunch are in the social distancing in the club recommendations. So you can find that on bgca.net/programs. And then, yes, with sort of other more specific state recommendations, but it still boils down to small groups, keeping kids in one spot as much as possible. You might need to stagger things. Will it be in the toolbox? Attention getters are in the toolbox. Community builders are in the toolbox. I'm not sure what else you are asking will be in the toolbox. Norma Linda? Yeah, if you could just give me some more specifics there, I would be happy to answer that question. Okay, good. Okay, I think I've gotten everyone's questions. I need to get my screen share back. Okay, you all should be able to see my slideshow once again. There we go. Okay. So now the meat of this, And we might have to get a little creative with how exactly we do this. But we will see what happens. If you have not downloaded a copy of Daily Challenges, this one, I highly suggest doing so. And you can find that on bgca.net. And I will pop a link directly to the PDF in the chat box. So that way, if you want to download a copy of Daily Challenges for the duration of this activity, you are able to. Or if you have a hard copy, you can look at that. It looks like some people might be like in a room together, so you can download one copy. I'm sorry guys, I'm having an issue with my video here. There we go. So highly recommend, if you are able to right now, go click on the link I just put in the chat and download a copy of Daily Challenges, so that way you can look at it. It obviously won't be bound, it'll be a PDF, but it's the exact same thing I'm holding here. And what I would like to do, again, not 100% sure how well this will work, but we will try our best. What I would like to do is to spend the next couple of minutes until about 3:40, so spending the next 15 minutes and have this time for y'all to download a copy of Daily Challenges, look through it, and see and find an activity. And then to review that activity and to figure out, how can I modify this to work with social distancing? Or maybe there's no way I can do that session with social distancing. It's just not gonna work. So I need to find a different activity to practice that skill. I need to find another way to do that skill. So that is how I would like to use this time, for you all to download a copy of this, find an activity. It could just be a random one you open it up to, and think through. I have some guiding questions. So I have these ones up here on the screen right now. And really thinking through like what might work and what is not going to work. If you have a hard copy of Daily Challenges, if you've printed it out, you will notice that there's, that page is not a good example. This page is a better example. We have lots of white space on the pages, so that when you print things out, you can make notes on the side. So I know some clubs, whenever they are facilitating, everyone just prints out their own copy and makes notes. I know one club has multiple staff members working with the same age group. And so when they have when one person runs a session, they use a certain color sticky note and pop a sticky note on the club copy. I modified this, or I did this way, or instead of this equipment, I use this. And so that way the next staff person that runs that activity can see what modification someone else made. So that's overview of Daily Challenges. Again, if you all could go and hop on bgca.net and download it. I think I have a little bit of housekeeping here. So Tammy said social distance. I feel like this is going to be hard for our youth. This will be something they would have to practice. 110%, Tammy. Absolutely. Again, this is hard for adults. It's going to be difficult for youth. And I guess the other thing I would say to that is more reminders. So however you can remind youth without being, well, still being kind and gracious. So, you know, big, bright, fun spots on the floor. This is where you stand. You know, practicing what staying 6 feet away from someone looks like. And then also understanding that like we're all gonna make mistakes and no one's perfect, and literally no one has had to practice this ever before. And so it's okay if we make mistakes, we just need to learn from them and do better. If anyone else has thoughts about social distancing, please pop them in. I would love to continue that conversation. I think I feel like I got another notification from Zoom about something, but now I can't see it. Okay, well, it's gone. Okay, I'm sorry, y'all. I thought I saw something where like someone raised their hand or someone had a question, but I don't see it anymore, so I might just be going crazy. If anyone else has thoughts on how to practice some of the social distancing with youth, I would also be, me personally and everyone else, I'm sure we would be thrilled if you shared that. So once you have downloaded daily challenges, find a session and just sort of think about like, how can we adapt this for social distancing? And then again, this is where we go back to the chat box. What I would ask is that you find a session in daily challenges, and then go into the chat box. You know, you can share this with someone. If you want to, you know, text a colleague, pop something in the chat box. I ask you to share a chat with the following information. So in addition to the age group, let us know what age group it is, and the session number. So this is ages 10 to 12, unit, I think this is unit 4, session 4, and the name of the session. And then let us know in the chat box, you know, how could you modify this to work for social distancing? Again, there's over 100 of you on this call right now. So if everyone goes and just chooses a different one, we could have a modification for every single activity in this book. So that is your implementation activity for this. So go take a look at daily challenges and let us know how you would modify, you know, a random activity. While you are doing that, I'm going to keep addressing some things I see. Nancy says, I believe we need to make sure to enforce this to the best possible, as we will be the example to follow for schools. Our kids will be ambassadors for this. Absolutely, 100% agree, Nancy, that this is likely going to continue. And so the more practice youth have over the summer, the easier it will be when they go back to school. And then Sheila says, it's a scenario of members not rotating classrooms. How would gym class and computer class be able to function? So that's a tricky one, Sheila. I think that some of that will be able to be addressed on the next session that Valerie talked about, talking about some Texas state recommendations. It's going to be a little bit different for every club. I think the thing to remember, or the thing that should be your guide, is how do we make sure that how do we keep everyone apart from everyone else? So that might, instead of keeping people in separate rooms, that might mean staggering how groups are moving from room to room. So instead of having everyone in the hall at once, you have a little waterfall situation where, you know, group A moves to the next room and then someone comes behind them, and then you have one empty room that's being sanitized. You know, as long, I don't think there's necessarily, this is more of a personal opinion. I don't think that there's one specific right or wrong way to do club programming with social distancing. It's going to be what works the best for the situation you're in, and it's going to be how do we do it effectively? And I mean, the end goal is staying 6 feet apart from someone, or minimizing and going beyond that. How do we minimize the amount of like face-to-face, close quarter interaction we have? And that should be your guiding principle is, you know, how do we reduce the spread of a virus from person to person? Not necessarily how do we keep everyone in the same room all day. I hope that begins to address your question, Sheila, because there's a lot in there. James talked about ages 6 to 9, the clean your room activity, and he suggests modifying it so that you are using soccer or kickballs to pass from area to area instead of throwing them. That is excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that modification with us, James. Oh gosh, I'm gonna butcher this name. I'm sorry. It's either Rocchio or Rocio. So let me know if it's a hard or a soft C. As staff, we definitely need to set the tone and have a positive attitude. We need to make sure we are not complaining about the increased measures. Yes, Rocio. 100% agreed. This again goes back to, you know, what we talked about earlier about joining in when to help kids get motivated to be physically active and setting a good example. So Rosio agreed about making sure that it's like, hey, this is just this is how things are right now, and this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to handle it. And again, that constant practice that we talked about earlier, to make sure constant practice to make sure that when you know, kids go back to school in the fall, that they are pros at this and can set a good example for their classmates. Kayla talked about ages 10 to 12, session 7. It's like a balancing and juggling relay race. So instead of saying, Kayla, if I am reading this correctly, oh, you did such a good job of writing this out. Thank you so much, Kayla. That there's a potential issue with tagging hands, sharing equipment, and standing in line. And so her suggested modifications are to set up team lines with cones, and then when members pass that line, the next member will go with their own set of equipment instead of tagging hands and sharing equipment. Yeah, that's a fair, and that seems like a fairly doable modification, Kayla. Again, it requires more equipment, and I think that that's something that we are going to see a lot of, that in order to reduce the amount of equipment sharing that's happening, gonna have to get creative with our equipment. So I am going to pause for a moment, drink some water. Valerie, are there any questions that you want me to address that have come through, or just anything else you would like me to mention or talk about?
You've been doing a great job. We've been taking a lot of notes. I do know a couple of questions came through, but they were more in regards to capacities of clubs reopening. And that's probably a better question for our next presenter who's going to actually talk about that. And that's really
Okay.
a question that's come through the Q&A box.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that one. Just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything. Yeah, Valerie, is there anything you would like clarification on, or yeah, I just want to make sure that people are having time to go through and sort of look through daily challenges before we move on and start wrapping the session up.
Yeah, any of our new staff are probably new to daily challenges, especially if it's their first summer. So it's going to be the experience of a lifetime, because none of us, it's like everyone's first summer, because even those of us who have been in the club for so long, all of this is completely new and different now. So I think everyone's kind of just learning and trying to be prepared to be safe for the kids and for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I would not want to be a brand new staff member this summer.
Well, pros and cons, they don't know what to compare it to from before. So this model will be the only way that they know.
Yeah.
Let's see, we have Jade Johnson, who's a newbie. Welcome, Jade.
Yeah, Rosio also just wanted to call out, let's not miss Unit 4. Yes. Unit 4 in all 3 age groups is all about foot skills. So it's like soccer type skills. And then also Unit 5 is using a stick or a racket, which also can be easier to maintain some good social distancing with. Again, there's some equipment, potential equipment issues there. But if you can get the equipment you need, then those are great options. Speaking of equipment, I just remembered that I have a resource to share with all of you. So keep on looking through daily challenges. And we, if you are familiar with our organized sports programming and with All Stars, we usually do, we usually are able to provide low-cost uniforms for clubs for their sports leagues. Obviously, organized sports is not a thing that is happening as much, but instead of uniforms, we are running, I guess, like a little promotion or initiative where if you are interested, you can ask for balls for different sports. So whether that is, we have basketballs and soccer balls and volleyballs available so for your club, and then also so they can be distributed out to youth to take home if you are doing a sort of combined virtual programming situation where maybe not everyone is in the club all at the same time. And I am looking for that post on the Facebook group, and when I get it, I will find it. There we go. Okay. So I am popping in the link. There's a whole bunch of different balls available. If you are interested in getting some balls to distribute to youth, you can go to that Survey Gizmo link. If you are interested in joining the BGCA All-Stars group, that link is there. These links are going to run together, y'all. I am very sorry. And then you should also, I highly recommend joining our BGCA Youth Development Group, which has a ton of people in it. And this is, we initially started the BGCA Youth Development Group to connect youth development professionals who are, you know, all working through sort of the COVID challenges together. But it's really become a great place for conversation. There's a lot of national staff members, myself included, who are in it. And we stalk all of the great activities that y'all post. We will like post questions and generate conversation. It is like probably one of the best parts of the internet right now. So if you are not in the youth development group, I'm throwing that in the chat box right now, and highly recommend you join that. Okay, so I see Jamie posted about ages 6 to 9, session 6, rock hop. So they can do their rock hopping individually instead of working as a group. Yeah, that's a super easy way to modify things, Jamie, is just switching from a group activity to an individual activity. Devin talked about, depending on what you're playing with, you can have youth make a racket instead of, I'm sorry, Devin, I am butchering your very intelligent comment. Devin suggests having youth make a racket in order to reduce sharing, so everyone can have their own. Nancy talks about being new is not a bad thing. We have nothing to compare it to. That is such a fantastic attitude, Nancy, and I really want to just call that out, and I really admire and applaud that positive attitude. And I think, you know, that's going to be so important for youth, just continuing to see the adults around them have that positive attitude. And then, yeah, I see some people asking to join groups. So I will approve everyone with all of the approval access that I have, because unfortunately I am not all seeing and all knowing. Okay. I'm going to keep this up for a little bit longer. Again, if there are any other comments, questions, comments, concerns about how to modify any daily challenges activities, please drop them in. Oh, I have another link to share with you all. To go back to what Devin just mentioned about creating their own, having youth create their own racket or their own equipment so that you have enough and no one has to share. There are more suggestions on sort of how to create your own equipment in the Gym and Field Playbook. So we released this resource pretty recently, in the past year or so. And let me see if I can share my screen here. Oh no. Oh no, oh no, something froze.
Hi, Ms. Kat.
Hi.
Hi, this is Rocio.
Hi, Rocio.
I just want to add something since I hear you talking about COVID and I see all the comments coming in. I don't want to minimize or miss the opportunity for everyone to be able to continue to network beyond this training. So I just want to point everyone to our TPA Facebook page. That way they can continue this conversation and just say, if you're not a friend of ours through TPA, go ahead and add us on and we can continue some of this conversation, because I think it's a good conversation. And even going in, I was thinking, well, there's really not much that can be done, with this. But as we're starting to talk, I'm realizing, hey, sports can still be there. There's ways around it. So again, just to continue the conversation, I want to encourage everyone on to go ahead and be a part of our Facebook page, our TPA-RGV Facebook page, and we can continue talking through there.
That is, yes, 100%. That is such an excellent point. And if, can we drop that in the chat so it's just easy for people to link to?
Okay, we'll drop that. How do I do it?
My computer is sort of freezing up right now, so I'm struggling a little bit. So I am going to just go back to my PowerPoint. So I'm struggling a little bit here. I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. We are going to finish up with the last bit of the content, and we can continue to continue this conversation so back to my slideshow. I've got my PowerPoint figured out. Equipment modifications. The gym and field playbook has different suggestions for how to sort of use like household items for equipment. So I just posted a dot link to that. I see Ro just posted to her Facebook, to that Facebook page. Marcy talked about ages 6 to 9 session 2 has a good community builder, but the main activity needs to be changed. And instead of having youth linked, they can be on teams, and when staff call out a number, we'll be the only ones to kick the ball. So again, yeah, getting creative with sort of if you're doing an activity that has different people sort of labeled as a different number. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for that, Marcy. Thank you for contributing there. So we are beginning to run a little bit low on time, so I just want to make sure I get to the last of this. Again, I'm still here and we are still monitoring in that chat box. So as you have questions, comments, concerns, ideas, pop those in. This is what we went over today. I think we hit all of our learning objectives today. And then again, here are some of the resources that I've mentioned. So in addition to ones specific about COVID and social distancing that have already that we've already put in the chat. So Program Basics Blueprint, the Club Experience blog has a whole series on coronavirus and sort of coronavirus response. That's a great resource, and we love to feature club stories on those as well. So if you have anything that's been very successful, if you have something that you want to share with clubs, not just within the South Texas Alliance, but across the country and even really the world, shoot us an email and we would love to write a blog post about what your club is doing. And then here is some more information about virtual programming, because that's a thing that's happening right now with some youth not being able to be in a physical club. So there's a bunch of different resources. You can pretty much find everything through bgca.net, but we have virtual programming, we have activity guides, You can get more information on my future, the YD Facebook page. I already shared that with you all. And then also remember that BGCA has live trainings every single day of the week that are very similar to this. They're 30 minutes to 2 hours, you know, held using Zoom or GoToMeeting or another video conferencing program like this. And it will be a training, and you can just sign up and hop on and join. And that can be a great opportunity for you to maybe learn about a program that is new to you, that you would be interested in running in the future, but maybe aren't comfortable yet. So encourage you to use that. Again, we have our incident reporting information. You can also find all of this on the bgca.net/child safety page. And we have a bunch of other trainings on SLU as well, including like 13 safety trainings. And then we have a lot more foundational youth development trainings going up on SLU very, very, very near term. So that is all of the specific content I have for you. Please, please, please feel free to email me and Floofus McDoofus with any questions, comments, concerns you have about daily challenges, physical activity programming, if you want to talk about cats or gymnastics, or your favorite local coffee shop. I'm also always down for that. I will hang out here for a little bit longer or until Val kicks me off.